everyone. Welcome to Beltline to Broadway and welcome Kyle Taylor Parker. I am so excited to get to hang out with you for lunch for lunch today,
Yeah,
virtually.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
um, Everyone, as always, if you have any questions or comments for Kyle, put them in the chat and we will try to get to them. And if you're on your lunch hour and you need to log off early, this whole thing will be online following this chat. But Kyle, it's the day after your opening night. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I'm exhilarated. I mean, the first opening night in what, about 18 months. So last
Yes.
night was incredible. It was a spiritual experience, an uplifting experience. I'm just so grateful.
So talk to me about this entire process post COVID, returning to the stage in this particular show with this incredible group of people.
Yeah. Um, I think, well, the first thing, everything has been done so carefully. North Carolina Theater has taken really great care of us in collaboration with Equity, as far as working on safety, making sure that everyone's vaccinated, making sure that the spaces are safe. There's a COVID officer. So I felt very taken care of as a performer. And then, as far as the content and what the show is, Songs for a New World, the word that comes to mind is timely. Everything is timely. It's a show about people who are on the precipice of coming out of the dark and into the light, making some kind of change. And some of those changes are comical, like, leaving a lover or being comfortable in love. And others are, heavier. Conversations of how do we change and be our best selves and accept ourselves and change for a stronger, more compassionate society. And if you look at the year that we were all in, being forced to just sit down and really look at ourselves and our community and our society and how we really care for each other, and how now the world's beginning to slowly open up and it's new, it's different. And we keep using this word like we're back, which kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety because I'm like, oh, we're back. Let's not forget. I don't want things to go back. I want things to go forward. And this show is all about forward.
And with a lot of hope and faith
Mm.
in moving forward, which is really what I took away from it. This feeling of hope and that we're going to be all right. I think that was like one of the recurring lyrics throughout a lot of the songs. Like, we're just going to be all
Mhm.
right. I was like, okay, that's so what I need to hear right now.
Yeah.
um, One of the things that I love about Eric Woodall, the producing artistic director of North Carolina Theater, he also directed this piece, and he's been a regular on this platform. Those of you who follow Beltline to Broadway know he is the most frequent guest on the podcast and on these live chats. Um, but what I love about his directing style is his ability to connect shows that are older. This one was first produced off Broadway in 1995. So this isn't a new song cycle, a new show, um, to the present, like you're talking about. So talk to me about you. I felt like when I was watching the performances last night, especially your performance, you were just connecting so much to the music, to the lyrics. You were in it.
Thank
So
you.
talk to me about drawing your own connections to the music and lyrics. Which, for those who don't know, are by Jason Robert Brown, who really does have this way of weaving in these timeless themes into his music.
Yeah. Eric Woodall directed the show, and he's really astounding. And he motivated all of us. But he said I think the first day of rehearsal, he was like, I want some of these songs you have to think about as poetry. And what I love about poetry is you find yourself in the words. And I think this show demands for the artist to make sense of each of these songs. And I think there's something you can relate to in every single song, any person in the audience. You just have to think about it. And there are a lot of lyrics that I sing in this show that I connect with from different places in my life. And, after a year of sitting down and not getting to do what I wanted with my life, I made a vow to myself not to play small and to take every chance I get to be on stage as an opportunity to express my humanity, what I know from the world and what I hope to learn more.
I love that so much. And we're going to talk more about that because one of the themes that I took away is that there are so many. I mean, there's some really fun songs and everything, but one of the themes kind of throughout is this notion, this concept of the American dream, which I kind of love. So we're going to unpack that. That's where I was like, oh, I wrote in my notes last night. I was like, unpack this whole thing with Kyle tomorrow because there was a lot. But one of the songs you sing that really just spoke to me is called Steam Train. Um, my daughter loves gymnastics and woke me up at the crack of dawn yesterday. I was so tired last night, but she woke me up at the crack of dawn yesterday to watch gymnastics, and we watched this whole thing with Simone Biles play out in real time. I actually think Simone is more of a champion for what she did yesterday than she will ever be for any of the medals she has around her neck. But Steam Train really spoke to me because it's a song about this man who wants to really become this basketball star. And I kind of saw these parallels between that song, that story, and what we've seen play out with Simone. Were you able to make that connection at all, or you're just in it?
Well, I connected it in my own way to my own life, but I definitely see that connection with Simone. I think to me, that song is a song about what fuels Black excellence, right? Like it's a term I've grown up with my entire life, Black excellence, Black excellence. And it's something that, I've been striving for in my own life and everything I do. But this is a song to me like, well, what fuels it? You see that person get so far. And the recurring lyric in that song is, if you want to live, baby, don't stand still. If you don't move now, then you never will. All about moving, just moving forward. And then it's interrupted by these monologues that are like the personal part of the character. And it's a flashy, fun dance number, but it's like, what's fueling this train? I mean, I definitely see that in Simone.
Yeah. Yes. And that's what so many of your songs speak to. This is what I loved about your performance. So many of the songs speak to not only Black excellence, but when we talk about sharing Black stories, I feel like so much of the song cycle weaves through this narrative of the Black experience. And to me, that's what you brought to the stage. And that's what I was feeling that I just love so much.
Thank you.
I do have a question, and we spend a lot of time on this platform talking about racism in the theater. We have a whole series called Theater on Racist Negativity, which is why I think Maya is the marketing person for North Carolina Theater. She's been on this platform too, but I think that's why she wanted to connect us. As I've been listening to a lot of the conversations around racism in the arts, racism in the theater unfold with so many productions, there is a fine line between leaning into stereotypes, racial stereotypes, and leaning into Black excellence and empowerment. And I really, as I watched last night, saw you leaning into the Black excellence and empowerment piece, but it so easily could have gone the other way with what was presented. So talk to me about leaning into that empowerment and finding that voice, finding your own power within that.
Yeah. Um, it's been a journey. It definitely has been a journey from being a young actor. Actors want to work, and you go to school and you learn how to. I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, which is a short. I did it in a year and a half, right? And so you learn how to get a job. That's the big thing they're teaching you. They also teach you craft, but to a certain point, you're young, and it's like, how do I get a job? The danger of that sometimes is, to me, getting a job sometimes gets me confused. When I think about the craft of acting is asking questions, thinking about the humanity of a person, like, what kind of a person is this? What's their background? Where do they come from before here? What's their grandfather like? What did they grow up around? What inspired their comedy? Like, some people who are really funny. You're like, how do they learn how to be funny? That's all craft, right?
Mhm.
Learning how to get a job sometimes for me gets me into thinking like, what do they want? What do they want from me? How do they see me? How do I get this? How do I bend myself to fit that person's vision for the show? And somewhere in there, if I'm not clear on who I am and what I stand for, what my characters stand for as human beings, the authenticity of my Blackness gets lost in the work. And so I had to start getting confident enough to ask questions and to know that my understanding of the world is something valuable and necessary to a creative process. And if I don't feel strong enough to say that doesn't feel authentic to me, or that feels a bit disrespectful to me, I don't think this person would ever do that. If I don't feel safe enough to ask that question, I'm in the wrong space. I'm in the wrong room. And that's unfortunately an earned type of confidence. If I'd never got the chance to play Lola, I don't think I would be so confident as to have stood up like that in many rooms. But that's the fine line. The fine line is oftentimes collaborating with white creatives who, and this is no fault of their own necessarily, who do not know what it's like to be Black. They've seen it in television, and they've seen it perhaps from a very, very outside point of view that's colored with their own ideas. But unless we're having a dialogue about it, how can we tell the truth of a thing?
Yes.
So I think that's how it happens.
And it's up to, the way I've seen it and what I value really a lot about North Carolina theater is it's about listening, which I think they do over there. And it's about, and this is the problem I see with theater in general. It's about relinquishing power. And that's a very scary thing for so many white artistic leaders. And so I think when we see these stories played out on stage, we have to uplift the theaters that are really trying to do the work and listen.
Yeah, this collaboration process was so incredible. When I got the call to do this, number one, Man One has been a dream role of mine. And I think a lot of young Black male performers who can sing high are like, that's the show. But for me, it was always like, man, these songs, it's like the iconic Black role. Like, he is like the everyman for Black men is the way I saw it. And so I got into voice lessons, started working on this, breaking it all down acting wise. We only rehearsed for a week. So the first day we got here, Eric Woodall had like little meetings with each of us talking about the songs. And it was the first time I ever really had that, like this open dialogue about like, okay, what do you see? what do you hear in this? And this is what I'm hearing in this. And we just talked and started building. And I think that's how we're better together as a community.
Yes. Yes. And that's why we are so lucky to have Eric at North Carolina Theater. I'm sorry, New York. He's ours. You can't have him back. So um but I feel like he's one of those artistic director producers who really lean into the listening and collaborative process, and I love that. So um do you think, having been in New York, having worked on this show, the all not having worked on, I mean, you've worked on pretty incredible shows. You replaced Billy Porter as Lola. You mentioned Lola in Kinky Boots, one of my favorites. You were on the national tour of Kinky Boots. I do you think we're gonna see, or we're starting to see, a cultural shift in theater and the stories we're gonna see on stages and the people getting to tell those stories?
I sure hope so. I mean, the fact that the plays in this next Broadway season are written by Black playwrights, that's incredible. Um, and more. So my eye is everyone's watching, and I hope that it continues. So many inclusive stories, race, gender, sexuality, everything. I mean, that's the theater is about. This is how you grow empathy and you get to learn what other people's lives might be like. And it only works if we're truly sharing the totality of our humanity as a society.
Mhm. I love that. I love it. One theme that also is kind of an undercurrent of this whole song cycle. And when I say song cycle, for those of you who don't know, Songs for a New World is more like a concert than a show with a through line. Although the shows are kind of all interconnected, and I almost think it's based on what the audience brings to it, what your own personal experience, how these songs are connected. But one thing I took away was this idea of in so many of the songs. How has faith played a part in your own personal journey as a performer, as an artist?
It's major, and it's something I continue to work on. As a kid, my grandma was my best friend, and she used to always say, she's like, "Oh, Kyle, that faith, you need to get on that faith," because I have a habit of getting far down a road and then being like, "Wait, no, 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 I'm not supposed to be here." She's like, "Trust it, just trust it." And she's passed now, but I still hear her voice every now and then being like, "Trust it, just trust it." I've wished so hard during the pandemic to get to do work like this that fuels me from the inside and feels really like I really loved what you said about that I was in it. I want to always be in it. And
Mm.
the night before we opened, I was on that journey in the middle of the road being like, "Oh no, I can't do it. I can't do it. This is a mistake." But what's so beautiful is that that is a big thread in the show. A lot of these characters are like my first solo song is that being in the middle of a road and being like, "God, am I going the right way? Please send a sign." And so if you just stay open to that, you can use it and it'll fuel you through the show. And I think that's kind of life, right? Like you never really know until it all adds up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think too, this show is such a again, I wrote in my notes, this show is like a love letter from North Carolina Theater and Eric, um, to audiences, to artists, to frontline workers, to the parents out there and the teachers who have been virtual teaching. It really did take a nod to what we've all been going through this whole year. So what has this pandemic and the quarantine been teaching? What has it taught you about leadership, performing, the creative process? What has it taught you about yourself?
Um, it's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot of things about myself. Um, I think the hardest thing about the pandemic is that it was forcing me, and I think all of us, to be painfully present. Everything in the past, and this is stolen from something Audra McDonald said on a call just like this in the beginning of the pandemic. She said, the pandemic is forcing us to be painfully present. Everything we've known is irrelevant, and the future is unknown. So we just have to be directly in the present. And what I learned is when I do that, I am actually my best. I'm more compassionate. I'm aware of other people outside of me and how, things may seem or feel to them. I have more empathy. I'm aware that it's not just a me centered world. And that's something I really want to hold on to. Something great last night, Eric Woodall gave this speech, a toast to everyone at the end. Normally, opening nights, it's like so many people, you don't really get to talk to everyone. You kind of forget the evening. And the next day, you just feel like so much adrenaline. I still have the adrenaline, but with it being a smaller group, he acknowledged every single person in the building who helped make that evening happen. And theater is it's a community. And that's what I've missed the most. And so to be present in mind and spirit for that was such a gift. And that's how I want to keep moving forward. It's like no one person does anything. We all do it together.
Mm. Do you have a favorite number to perform in the show?
Oh, I really do enjoy King of the World. I find something new every time I do it. It's such a big idea. And so I really do enjoy that one.
I'd love the show to run almost longer so you guys could keep exploring these characters, because I just feel like there's just so much there. Um, we mentioned Kinky Boots, and I think this show too, to a certain extent, really has a place in bringing community together, maybe changing hearts and minds, because I think as people listen to these songs and they're laughing one minute and unpacking these big ideas the next, it will hit people days later. So
Mhm.
what do you think the role has? What do you think the role theater has in bringing a community together, help healing a community? Because I feel like our community has been in crisis, not just from the pandemic, but from a lot of the brutality we've seen play out on television. The insurrection that keeps playing out. What role does theater have in healing and bringing a community together?
I think theater has a massive role in that. It is, I'm very ooga booga about all this stuff if you can't tell yet. But
I like
I
the
perfect. The idea that people from all different walks of life come to one place, and it's a ceremony. You come to one place and you watch a story, and you find yourself in that story. You see people who don't look like you, who may not think like you, and you're sitting next to people who may not look or think like you, and yet you all find something there, and we say bravo at the end. We respond, and that's like the emotional roadmap that says, I've been there. I know that. I'm seen. So that's really important. The other reason why I feel like it's important is my favorite, Bertolt Brecht has this quote: art should not be a mirror to reflect society, but a hammer for which to shape it. And that, even the fluffy stuff shapes it, right? Because the fluffy stuff says, like, as dark as our life can feel sometimes, there's lightness, right? And same thing with the profound thing. So I lead with that. And I wish that the arts had more funding and that it was held in such a high esteem. because it's good. It's good for our mental health. It's good for our emotional health, and as a society, it teaches us how to be better.
Has it surprised you how much one thing I hope to take out of this pandemic is how important the arts actually are when it comes to funding, when it comes to our society. Has it surprised you at all as an artist how much people have leaned into the arts just to survive through the pandemic?
Um,
Whether it's music or theater or these virtual streams or whatever.
yeah, I mean, it has definitely surprised me to see what has remained, right? Like we grab for the paper towels and peanut butter and we run to our homes and burrow. And then shortly after, there's this world concert that Lady Gaga put together that's being streamed and everyone's watching and connecting. It all goes back to Sheila E. talks about it, the drum. It is all trying to be in sync on one beat like that. The arts maintain, it's always been that drum. How do we connect with one another? That's who we are, but we forget it. um and that's got to be healed, but we forget that who we are is a tribal group of people who want to connect.
Um, it's funny to me, NBC has embraced embraced bringing theater to television, which I love. And so you were on the small screen before it was trendy because you were in Jesus Christ Superstar, which is such an incredible broadcast. This show, Songs for a New World, was recorded a couple nights ago and will be streamed on demand over the weekend for people who are not comfortable going back to the theater. So y'all can see it no matter where in the world you're watching from. Um, I wonder when the cameras were on and you guys were filming, were you able to kind of tap into that Jesus Christ Superstar experience and kind of be like, okay, I got this?
There are some similarities. I definitely thought about it. I was like, oh wow. I mean, we have these in-ear monitors. That's fabulous. It's very rarely used in musicals, but we have them on Jesus Christ Superstar. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like what we had during that time. I don't know. I guess I did think that, but it is it is fabulous that now theater is becoming more accessible in this way.
Do you think we'll see? Do you think this hybrid model is going to stick as far as accessibility goes? Or do you think a year from now we're just going to be over it, over the Zooms, over the streams, and we're just going to be back in it, be back in the live?
Well, I hope that it's both, right? Like, I hope that live theater needs people to come see it. Live theater is also expensive to make, right? So I understand the idea of like, oh, ticket prices. How do you make the ticket prices more accessible, et cetera, da da da. So what I like about this hybrid version and existing for so long at like a $25 price is that you can still be exposed to theater no matter what your financial situation is. And it can still be a goal to get into that building one day where you're not watching it, but you got to see it to be it. So the more accessibility we have and exposure, the more little me's and you's that we can have, in love with the theater. So I do hope that it stays around.
Yes. And we do love theater. I want to talk about the performing aspect. So much about being a performer is connecting to your audience, looking out at the audience, seeing the reactions. When you're looking out at an audience, and I want to say a socially distant audience, because last night there were a lot of it's not that the show wasn't sold, the show was sold, but they're really allowing people the space to spread out, so they're comfortable. Lots of people were masked last night. So talk to me about the difference looking out from a Broadway house like Lola and Kinky Boots, or on tour, what you're used to, having a full house, sold out audiences, to looking out and seeing um, empty seats, kind of spaced through, masks. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. Last night felt so intimate to me. Normally, if I'm comparing the two, I would say normally I just see a sea of black. And then maybe I can see like three faces towards the end of the night. And also, you noticed this is a thing. Like I kind of lose myself in it. So it takes me a moment until I can really see people. And Eric has asked us to connect with the audience. So we're making an effort to really see people. I think with the space between, it made it easier to connect and like clock. I'm like, okay, there's no one sitting in that seat. Now I see your eyes, and I can come back in and check in. By the end of by the end of the run, you know that old thing. They're like, by the time you close, you're ready to open. By the end of the
Yeah.
run, I want to have it where like I start the show and I look at one group of people, and by the end of the show, I can look back at them. So it's like we've gone on this journey together. That's what I'm trying to ramp myself up to. But there are a lot of lyrics in the show, so we'll see. We'll see if I get there.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's a lot of lyrics and there's a lot of breath control. There were so many moments in the show last night where I was like, okay, where's the breath? Where's the breath? I was like, cannot hold that note possibly any longer.
Honey, I've been in voice lessons for the last 2 months ramping up for this because I was like, this is like the Shakespeare of singing. I need to
Yeah.
prepare for this.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I will say about Raleigh Memorial Auditorium. So for those of you who are familiar with North Carolina Theater and their space at Raleigh Memorial Auditorium, and for those of you who may not be, I feel like it's a Broadway style house with very intimate feel. So I love that. And the acoustics are fabulous. So that's also a good thing. So what's next? You where Maya, I know you're watching. We got to get this cast and crew North Carolina barbecue. So other than going for some North Carolina barbecue, once you go back on Monday, what's next for you? I know you've got some concerts you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm also a recording artist. I have 2 albums. I actually made my second album during the pandemic, Broadway Soul Volume 2. I take Broadway songs, I turn them into soul songs. I'm doing a concert of that in Ogunquit, Maine, and then also in New Jersey at the Paper Mill Playhouse. And I'm doing a one night only concert of Songs for a New World, where we're just singing one song from the show. And just anxiously awaiting the return of theater in New York as well.
Yes, Maya just posted. Yes, she's been talking to you all about the pit. So, hey, the pit, the cast is coming. Taking care of them. Well, I hope everyone embraces this show and really goes to see this beautiful production. The lighting is so well done. The musicians, the vocals. I mean, this is Broadway caliber theater right here in North Carolina on our local stage, and I just hope everybody will embrace it and go see it. And if you can't go see it live, or you're not comfortable going to see it live, watch it. You'll be able to stream it on demand, buy it, and watch it on demand this weekend. And I hope everybody will, because it's it's an iconic song cycle. These are songs I think so many of us have heard, but then when you contextualize it in this way, it's just really powerful. So, thank you. Thank you for spending your lunch with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I loved it.
Oh, well, thank you. And if you popped on towards the end, or you missed any part of this conversation, like I said, it will be right on Facebook. As soon as we log off, you can watch it from the beginning. I'll be posting it on our website Maya did post the link to North Carolina Theater so you can get your tickets, but I will also put it at the bottom of the screen, nctheater.com. And I told you my what I'm going to visualize from now on is I want Adam to return to Aladdin, and I want you to play the genie. That's my dream cast. So I'm gonna have to visualize that, even if it's just a concert. That's what I want to say. There was
Hey,
one moment last night you all were singing together. I was like, that's my dream cast right there.
I
So
would love to.
anyway, thank you so much, Kyle. I'm such a fan. I will be downloading your music. And everybody go see this incredible show. Um, and I hope to speak to you soon. Just stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you on stage again for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you soon.